Hey everybody, Chris here. I'm doing something a little bit different today. This video is a response to a call to action. Um, so for anybody that has been following me, I've kind of grown the podcast over the last few months and extended to doing video clips like this. This person that I'm responding to is the reason why I started doing video clips. And a friend of mine actually introduced me to him. It's Beau of the Fifth Column, so it's a good chance that you know who he is. He's pretty popular, but if you don't, I highly recommend checking him out. I'm going to put links to his show. I'm going to actually put specific links to the episodes that I'm referencing because he puts this out there much more clearly and intelligently than I probably would. But as I said, I've been watching him for a long time, and he even mentions in the video that he doesn't do a lot of calls to action, but he does do one here, and I think that it's really important. He made a good point about, he has 150,000 people watching the video, and then all those 150,000 people go share their message on Facebook. If you have an average of 338 friends on Facebook, then you have a potential reach of 50 million people to share the message. So the message here is in regards to Portland and the intense race relation protests that have been going on for months now. And again, bringing it back to myself for a second. So when the George Floyd murder first happened, I did a series of videos on it, on my thoughts about it, and then I had the interview with my good friend Jessica, talking about just race relations in general, and I had said that this really felt different. This was something that I needed to start taking more seriously and taking steps that I can take to try to be a part of some kind of positive move in the right direction. And this is another example of that. I think I don't have the reach that Beau the Fifth Column has, but I have an outlet, and as he kind of points out in the video, if you have knowledge of something that isn't right, you kind of have a moral responsibility to call it out. So the long and short of the message here is that everything Donald Trump is doing is wrong in regards to how he's responding to the uprising, if you want to call it that, the grievances, everything. And he references this manual. So there's a lot of organizations, nonprofits, and they provide research to basically help develop policy. And a lot of this is in regards to foreign policy overseas. And so, this particular manual that he's referencing, it's from the RAND, National Defense Institute. And I won't get into it too heavily. As I said, Beau can explain it really well. I learned a lot from watching just this series. He did like 3 or 4 videos on the manual and basically the nuts and bolts of what it is, and really getting into how everything Trump is doing goes against the manual. The long and short of the message is that you respond by doing nothing in terms of getting involved. You secure the area, meaning you keep it from escalating, and you listen to the grievances. You have to give the people an opportunity to air their grievances. That's how you win hearts and minds. And he made a great analogy with overseas. So if as Americans, we tend to be very ethnocentric. We're number one. We don't necessarily see the faults in our own government, our own ways. So it's very easy for us to rebuild infrastructure when we go into Iraq or Syria, fix education, give them, help them build a hospital, give them health care, because, oh, well, of course they need that over there. Their infrastructure is terrible. Their police is, their education is horrible. But it's easy for us to say that overseas. So the irony is that we respond better to these sorts of crises when they happen overseas, and we don't respond to them correctly here because we're not used to it, and we have trouble accepting or acknowledging the idea that we just might not be that great after all, at least in some ways. And you're not going to win hearts and minds by adding fuel to the fire. And what's happening now, again, paraphrasing off of Beau's message, is that the second wave of people are getting involved, and what happens is the second wave is a lot more intense than the first wave, because the second wave is not coming out to air grievances. They're responding to perceived mistreatment. So what's happening is Donald Trump is sending in massive amounts of troops, going against this manual, by the way, which I'm going to actually include a link to this specific manual. It's long, but again, the long and short of it is that you don't send in the heavy artillery. They call it the iron fist. So that's literally what Trump is doing, and the research, the scientific based research that goes into this particular manual, it's against that. It's everything points to iron fist being the losing method, and hearts and minds is what is going to get you through this. And so what's happening is we're seeing escalation, right? Because people are seeing the police state, and they don't like it. It's not good. Having armed officers dragging protesters off into unmarked cars, it's not good, and it's only adding fuel to the fire. And so now what's happening is more people are getting involved, and the fear is that what we don't want to happen is what's going to happen. It's the writing is on the wall. Is escalation. It's just getting worse because we are ignoring the grievances that are being aired, that need to be heard. And you talk about, I always hear about losing the message, right? The message getting lost in the riots and all the destruction. But that stuff only happens because the police get involved when they don't need to. It's this kind of never-ending uphill battle, and I think the thing that I took away from this series of videos that Beau did, as I said, I learned a lot. The thing that really struck me is just the fact that everything Trump is doing is wrong, is going against the manual. It is taking on the iron fist. And why that concerns me is that, if you take a multiple choice test and you take 100 questions, if you could have completely guessed, you know nothing about the matter, you're going to get 25% of those questions right. So there's a method to it. There's an intent behind it. And what is that intent? It's bad. I can tell you that. I hear him talking about trying to stop mail-in voting. It's pretty obvious what he's doing. He's trying to stop the vote. He knows that the more people vote, the less likely he is to win. So that's what this is all about. He's trying to create a crisis to I don't know if he's going to try to like cancel the election altogether or try to just overrule the results. But that's what's going on here. And as I said, I highly recommend checking out Beau. The Fifth Column is amazing. I watch all of his episodes anyway. So I would recommend subscribing and watching all his videos, but in particular, these 3 or 4 videos that have to do with the manual and how the president is choosing to respond to this growing crisis that we're having right now. It's really important, and the biggest takeaway I can give you is please after watching those videos and kind of taking it in, maybe read over the manual, share your thoughts on Facebook, maybe make a video post like I am right now, talk to your friends, and just kind of help with Beau's math, right? So his whole point is if you have 150,000 followers, the message gets extrapolated exponentially by everybody sharing that with all their followers and just going. So I'm trying to do my part, as I said with what happened with George Floyd. I didn't want that to just be something that happened in 2020. It needs to be. There needs to be some systemic change, and one of the things I keep saying is that extreme situations require extreme response. So that's kind of where we're at. I appreciate if you've stayed with me this whole time, this video. Please, again, just spread this message. We're not invincible. We're not invulnerable. We're not invincible to civil war, and this could get really bad, and we have to be aware of that. We have to have the take away the false idea that we're above this or that we're better than other countries that we step into and rebuild their infrastructure. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that you take this message to heart. Check out Beau's videos. Have a great rest of your day, and remember, don't be afraid to question the consensus.